Welcome to Got Grass, conversations with the legends and leaders of Bluegrass. You've enjoyed live Bluegrass at Guitartown CT concerts in Hamden, Connecticut since 2008. From Tony Rice, Rouse Stanley, and Doyle Lawson to Tim O'Brien, Sierra Hall, and Billy Strings. Now you can go behind the scenes as we chat with your favorite Bluegrass stars. I'm your podcast host, Chris Worth. So I'm very happy to have Jake Eddy on Got Grass today. Welcome, Jake.
Hey, man, Chris, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. I want to mention first that you were performing a concert here in Hamden on Saturday, January 24th, guitar workshop at 3 and a concert at 7. And there's still a few tickets left, which are available on my website, which is guitartownct.com. So
yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I do realize now in hindsight, I think I've been publicizing things that say New Haven, but I need to straighten up. Hamden.
We're outside of New Haven, but we're definitely different. So I usually start by asking my guests on the podcast, what's a perfect day off like for you when the guitar is put away and you're just like hanging?
Yeah, well, a day off where the guitar is totally put away is so rare in ways, but you know, my wife and I have an 8-month-old, soon to be 9-month-old daughter who's actually we're going to bring on this tour, which will determine what kind of a mistake that was, but so yeah, a lot of my days off now are kind of like hanging with the baby, watching Blue's Clues and eating berries and stuff like that, kind of just hanging out. And you know, we like to play cards, and we have a lot of friends that live close, and now we watch a lot of stupid movies, and you know, we travel so much. I think when the days off come around, it's like, don't do anything, don't tell anyone, turn the blinds down, and like, you know, just keep it to yourself. But really, even on my days off, I love to listen. I love to practice, and I love to play for fun too, and go to picking parties and have my brother over and play tunes and all that. So.
I was going to ask you about your brother because you played up here with him at least once. He's still playing the bass?
Yeah, so Carter is on the road with this guy Seth Mulder in Midnight Run.
Oh yeah.
And then he's doing some filling in and you know, I'm not sure to what extent with East Nashgrass for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So he's out with them starting about you know, roughly the same timing of my tour. He'll be out west with them doing that whole thing. So yeah, he's staying busy and you know, I tell everybody, like, I'm the hardest working musician that this family has ever seen, but he's the most talented by far.
Well, you're very honest.
Yeah, he's great. I'm happy for him. He's doing awesome.
That's good. So you're from West Virginia, right? Is that where you're born and raised?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here now.
You're here now. I recently had on my podcast Greg Blake, who's also from West Virginia. You know Greg? He's a singer for Special C, and he's won a couple IBMA awards the last few years for Singer of the Year. Nice guy.
Greg is awesome. I think saying I know him well might be a little bit of a stretch, but yeah, we've met and we've said howdy quite a few times. I've seen him at things and heard him sing, and what a powerful big voice. You know, he's great. Sounds great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know he's a West Virginian. I guess I don't know. I've heard that, or maybe heard him say that, but I'm not really sure where.
I don't think he actually grew up there. I think his family moved out Midwest when he was young. I don't think he spent all that much time in West Virginia.
Maybe born here or something then, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of musicians I have on here say that they didn't really choose music. It kind of chose them. There never was any doubt from the time they can remember that they were going to play music and did play music. And I kind of assumed that was true for you, but I'll let you answer.
I played a lot when I was a kid. You know, like I started picking when I was, I mean, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years old or something. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I realized how special it was. Like a lot of my family are musicians. And so, you know, when you go to Thanksgiving or Christmas or a birthday party or whatever, it's picking going on. It's always picking going on. So I just sort of grew up with it. And yeah, I mean, I've always played and I never had an interest that rivaled music. Like I had other little hobbies and things growing up. But yeah, I mean, I think that music was always going to probably be the thing. that's what I thought was the coolest thing. I wasn't particularly athletic. My grades were fine, but
Uh, yeah, music was it.
yeah, and it's something that it's kind of checks all the boxes. It's like a challenge, but it's also like a social thing, and you can meet people, and it's a creative thing, and you can do it for a long time. Like, if you're into baseball, like how long can you really play baseball and have fun? Like not as long as you can with a fiddle or guitar or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, my parents were not. I don't think I was ever told or reminded to practice or anything like that. My parents, I don't want to say they were hands off at all because that's not what I mean, but they were just not forceful, and I think they just wanted us to kind of like have fun and any pressure and sort of like um focus and stuff. I guess came from my own standards more than theirs. Like they were pretty chill about it. So
Yeah. So in town growing up, you weren't known as like the music family. It was just music everywhere, or were you known as like their music
yeah, I mean, we
family?
kind of had that reputation. I mean, so my mom, well, my grandpa was in like bluegrass bands and all my life, and my mom was in bluegrass bands, and also like my mom was in a sort of alternative, like, yeah, I don't maybe alternative is not the word, a sort of 90s rockish kind of band with her sisters, and um my mom did a lot of songwriting and stuff like that, and I had on my dad's side there was pickers and stuff. So yeah, there was definitely kind of that reputation, like, oh, we need a band for this thing, call the Eddy guys or whatever.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of picking in our town, and a lot of other musicians and stuff, but we definitely kind of had that reputation, I guess, is good.
Yeah. So I know you played a lot of music as a kid, and then at some point you got asked to play with Melvin Goins, correct?
Yeah.
A professional gig.
My first professional gig, and there was, oh, sorry, my dog's yapping. It was definitely varying degrees of professional at different at different times. But it was, man, it was so cool. I Melvin called me when I was like, I think I was 14. I think I was in the seventh grade, eighth grade maybe. And he said, that he had heard me play, or somebody had told him. I think Chris Hill, a banjo player that used to play for James King and was in this band Feller and Hill. Chris Hill. He I don't think he plays anymore, but I kind of knew him from some festivals, and he had played with Melvin some, and maybe gave Melvin my name, or anyway. And Melvin called me and said, "Son, could you come and pick a banjo for me on the road?" And I thought, well, probably not. My kid, I probably not, but I kind of wanted to, and I mean, obviously, I wanted to, and so I told my parents. I don't know if that my parents and him ever spoke, to be honest, but I explained to them the situation, and they kind of said, if you I think initially their reaction was kind of like, no. Like, I don't know that they ever said no to me, but I'm sure they were skeptical. But what they landed on was like, if you can bring a chaperone, you can do it. And my grandpa had just retired from like a day gig, he was like 60 or whatever, and 65. And uh I sure as hell didn't want to take like my mom. I mean, I love my mom. She's like, but you don't want your mom to go to work with you, or whatever. So I asked my grandpa, like, could you come with me? And he was a picker and stuff, and he said he would. And the first, we went and met Melvin in, I think, Paintsville or Pikeville, Kentucky, and got on his little van bus thing, and uh, went to go pick up the bass player. And there was some kind of like a conflict. Melvin and him had been fighting about like money or about who knows what. And the bass player quit. And it was right before the first gig ever with Melvin, which was in Hyden at the Osborne Brothers Festival. And Melvin said to me, he said, "Son, do you know anybody who can play the bass fiddle?" I'm like, not, I mean, yeah, but not really. And I didn't know what to do. And I just said, well, my grandpa can play, and he's already here, And so, and Melvin asked if he could fill in, and my grandpa was like, yeah, I'll try, and always sort of like a humble guy, like, oh shoot, I don't know if I could do it. But so he filled in that one night, and then he got offered the gig, and so we both just were bandmates at that point. So we both were hired in, and yeah, we toured that way in Melvin's band for, maybe 2 or 3 years, and then he died. know. And it was
Um,
great. It was he's like a sort of first generation guy. There's all these photos of him and his brother Ray with Bill Monroe, and like they were in the Lonesome Pine Fiddlers and with the Stanley Brothers, and Melvin was there for all that stuff. And so the stories and sort of some of the lessons and just like how to get along on the road and like how it all works. And I learned so much from that guy and stuff I think is valuable to me now. Um, yeah, it was fantastic, great experience, and like yeah, lucky. I mean, there's not an opportunity to work for those old guys anymore. They're all gone. I mean, Larry Sparks is like around. Um, but even he was, a bit younger than Melvin and stuff. So
yeah.
it was cool. I definitely felt like I was one of the last people that ever got to work an old school gig like that. It had to be.
So obviously you were a young kid playing with some veteran musicians. Did anything shock you or surprise you? Like, do you remember? It's like, oh my
Oh my
God,
God. Yeah. Every day there was
everything.
things that blew my mind. Yeah. Um, some of the funny stuff is like the stuff that anyone can guess, but just sort of the amount of just they're wild guys, there's women around and there's drinking and there's smoking cigarettes and other things that aren't cigarettes, and there's gambling and playing cards and all that stuff. And like that stuff was all so eye-opening to me, and much to the dismay of my family, it just made all that shit cooler to me. And I was like, these guys are awesome. These guys have girlfriends and they smoke and they're all 50, 60, 70 years old. But yeah, a lot of that sort of silly stuff, whatever. But one of the funny ones that always stands out to me is the very first show. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Still, I laugh to think of it. Melvin was like a notorious cheapskate, and we would always share hotel rooms. We would always pitch in for groceries that totaled more money than the stuff cost, and all that kind of thing. And Melvin, two things on the very first run, he said to us, he said, "Boys," he said, "I believe we need a loaf of bread. It's about $2." He said, "Everybody hand up $2." So got six guys for $2 a piece for $2 loaf of bread. And I ended up splitting the room, sharing the room with Melvin. Me and my grandpa in one bed, and it was an America's Best value in $29.99 a night, and me and my grandpa in one bed and Melvin in the other. And Melvin didn't have a suitcase or anything. He walked in after the show. We went to the hotel, and he walked in with his suit on, his cowboy hat. And just as like plain as day, we're just talking about the show, talking about whatever, and he just sort of strips down to tidy whities and a white cowboy hat. And he just lays right on top of the comforter, pulls the hat down over his eyes, and just went to sleep. I was like, wow, it's just like a crazy thing. It's so funny. But
Oh
yeah,
man.
that gig was unreal. And I got a lot of respect for those guys. I mean, they're crazy characters, but um some great music, even despite Melvin's age and stuff. Um, there was some great music, some nights greater than others, but there was some really, really cool things that I got to hear and be around for.
Did they try to turn you on to moonshine, any kind of liquor that you
Of
hadn't?
course.
All that stuff was all being
Of
passed around.
course.
Yeah.
And, and my grandpa was probably privy to some of that, but I think for the most part, he sort of just would like try to just pretend like he had no idea the things that were going on. And it wasn't all that wild. I mean, I still was like I was relatively straight-laced when I started that gig, but yeah, it was, yeah, all that. I mean, at the risk of incriminating people, but there's some funny things that happened on the road. Melvin was like an iconic kind of, maybe womanizer is like a step too far, but just a flirt, always women around, always like girl. To see a guy who's 82, 3, 4, 5 in that role is just hysterical, and like, so all that stuff was, yeah, this is great.
It's funny because I just read this book by Mark Hembry, who played bass with Bill Monroe for 5 years. It's called On the Bus with Bill Monroe, and
I've read it. Yeah.
he's coming on my podcast Friday. But of course, he was 22 when he joined, so he wasn't a teenager, but it was like a whole new world to him too. He said, "Oh my God, I couldn't understand a word these guys were saying. They were speaking in the strongest Southern drawls. I was from, wherever, Wisconsin or something." He said, "They gave me so much grief, and it was just really hard to get used to the whole scene."
Yeah, it's different, man. It's like, um, like in in Mark's book, I remember reading, or in maybe in Mark's book, or maybe in some other thing, that like Kenny Baker was one of those guys who was kind of like old school country, like kind of stone faced, like not wouldn't talk a whole lot necessarily, and kind of like sort of intimidating figure. And they said that in his house, though, he was like scholarly, like he had thousands of books on all subjects and all this stuff. And that was always also surprising things for me on the road, where you meet these guys who are like that when you only know those old school cats from like records and stuff, they're kind of like one dimensional. You think they're just like pickers, and that's just what they do. And but all those guys had all sorts of other interests, and um yeah, I mean, just all sorts of things, and they're pretty deep guys, pretty interesting. Like they're artists too, like they're artist types. Just because they're like old school country, or like, I don't want to say uneducated, but like they're not maybe the most well read or whatever. It doesn't mean they don't have. They're deep. They're deep guys for sure. And so yeah, I thought that was always interesting to learn about them, stuff that wasn't just like like guitars and stuff, singing and whatever.
Well, that's funny because that's the whole point of my podcast. I say it's not just picks and strings. I like talking to people about what they're really like outside of bluegrass instruments, and people actually open up like you are. It's interesting to hear people's lives, not just, as you say, just see them one dimensionally as a picker, but everybody's a human being too, and you never get to see that.
Yeah, and and they're so funny. That's what stands out to me the most. Like I probably laughed harder then, than I've ever laughed since. Like they were hilarious guys, really witty, sharp, like all that stuff. And uh yeah, that kid was the best. I look back on that time with like total fondness, and like so thankful I got to do it.
Yeah. So when you started out playing with them, or even just younger, did you have a goal in mind? Did you want to be famous, rich, get on the Grand Ole
No.
Opry? Just want to play?
I liked there was definitely a thing about the Opry for me when I was a kid. Like just because the way people talk about, like, even when you're a kid, you start picking, people say to you at church or at your teachers at school, they say, "Oh, you're sounding pretty good, son. Maybe you'll go down to the Grand Ole Opry." So that's like something that I was aware of, and whatever. But no, I didn't have any kind of I joke, but I'm probably like the least goal-oriented person ever. Like I just like to, like, if I play well and I keep getting better, all that stuff just comes on its own, and I'm like thankful for that. But no, I didn't have like huge aspirations. Like I just want to be great, and that's still sort of, I guess, what I'm after. Like I want to be as good as I can be, whatever. And um, I mean, I never had any money growing up, really. Like, we weren't like poor folks, but my dad was a fireman. My mom stayed home with us, just sort of like middle class, whatever. And but not like lots of money. Never had money growing up. Never thought about making a bunch of money, or never thought about like. No, no. I just love to play. I love music. I love to listen, and um, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hate to say like no, didn't have a goal, but I just wanted to play well, and just, I guess, wanted to. I really thought that the pickers I knew, like I really looked up to my grandpa. I really looked up to like a lot of his friends and folks that would come around and pick. I just thought they were cool. I thought they were like cool to hang around, and you know just like
Yeah.
real men, like cool dudes who were pickers. And yeah, I think I spent a lot of time when I was a kid kind of like romanticizing that kind of like, um it's not like straight life. It's not like going to a job and working at a desk. It's like these guys who, like, like my grandpa would make, like, he had like a job and stuff, different jobs off and on, whatever, but he could, like, he always had this huge like wad of cash in his guitar case. It was just like from picking, or from like working on somebody's truck, or he traded a lawnmower for a thing, or he won a card game, or like, I always thought that stuff was so cool that you could like you could put your life together with sort of like stuff you enjoyed, and not just, I had kind of like an authority problem when I was a kid. Like I always hated teachers, hated people telling me what to do, all that stuff. And so I think I saw in those musician types like that there's another way to get by, that's not so rigid, or whatever.
Did you ever have a time in your life when you thought about maybe doing something beside music, like maybe getting a real job, or was it you never had any doubts about this life?
I just I'm a pretty strong-willed kind of a guy, and I never. There was definitely some pretty lean times where I was like, shit, I'm gonna have to make some money, like one way or another, and but not really. I went to music school for a little bit out of high school, and that was kind of that's pre-COVID and all that, obviously. But um, yeah, I went to music school and studied jazz for a little bit, and I did there for like a year and a half, and but no, I mean, the only money I've ever made that wasn't music was like I mowed my neighbor's lawn for a summer one time, and I did a I wholesaled pumpkins one time. You've probably heard that story before, but it was like during the beginning of COVID when like all the gigs were dried up, and I bought this farm truck and I like started this little pumpkin patch thing where we would go to these rich neighborhoods and like sell jack-o'-lanterns off a truck. It was like a little scheme we came up with that made some money like when the gigs dried up. But like those two little things was all that. No, I never. Not really.
Yeah, yeah. So these days, as a professional bluegrass musician, can you kind of split up what percentage of your income, not in terms of dollars, but just percentages from like gigging or from studio work or teaching? Like, is there a, can you
Well,
split it up that way, or does it
I
change all the time?
can, it changes all the time, and so always 100% of it is from gigs, sessions, teaching, right? And I do some like brokering of vintage guitars and stuff like that, but um, the it really changes. Like last year, especially with having the baby and stuff, I took some time off and whatever, but a lot of my income last year would have been from like teaching and session work. I wasn't on the road all that much. I did like a couple little tours. But this year, I think a much larger chunk of it will be from touring again. Um, it was just so touch and go. It's funny. It almost feels easier now that the baby's here. It was way more touch and go when my wife was pregnant because it's like, what if something goes wrong, or what if, like, what if she goes into labor and I'm in Maine, or like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, I mean, it looks like there's going to be a lot more touring this year. I would say this year it'll probably look like 50% touring, maybe 25% teaching, another 25% doing the sort of like session work or like again the vintage guitar dealing stuff. I do some of that, but um yeah, usually whatever at the moment there's like one big chunk I'm doing, half my money comes from one of those things and then the rest is sort of just get it what you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. I know you sell guitars, and I saw a comment somewhere on Facebook like, this guy must be rich. How does he afford all these guitars that he owns
Yeah.
to sell? And I said, well, I don't know. Maybe he's a millionaire. We just don't know about it. But I
No,
guess they're not your guitars you're selling, right? You're selling guitars for people usually,
I mean
or
some of them are mine, and
some
it's
are
one of those
yours.
things
Yeah.
where like, I started sort of brokering deals for other people like I make $500 on this one, $1,000 off this one. I'll sock it away, and then I'll buy one to keep, and I'll do it again, do it again, do it again. And now I'm at the point where I've liquidated almost everything I owned to buy the sort of one big daddy one. And it's not always the same one. Like I still do some trading and whatever, but like a 30s Martin Dreadnought, like the one in here now is a 38 D28. It's like you can't really go up. That's kind of the end of the line. You could find a different one or another one or whatever, but um and so yeah, so some of them are mine, and like I have done pretty well at it over time, and so but it just was a lot of like a lot of trading, brokering, selling, flipping, all that stuff, and I love those old things. I'm such a nerd with it. I'm like sort of part-time historian, part-time kind of like I really am deep into that whole thing. Like I was reading, I was reading last night about um the inventory of bridge pins in each year of the 30s. How much bridge pin material was Martin ordering? I mean, I go way into this shit. Like it's stupid, but it's like I find it really interesting, and
Yeah.
especially for somebody who's never had like a hobby. Like I always picked, like most of what I always was into was just playing, and I know that's sort of music related, but it's like scratches kind of a different itch.
So is that your go-to guitar right now? That D28 you have? Is that your?
Yeah, it is fantastic, and I've said this about like 100 guitars, but if I keep it forever, that's fine with me. Like it's really that good, and I've had a lot of guitars like that I should have kept and stuff, but I have kind of a wandering eye, but I haven't felt it yet with this one. This one is pretty squarely, mine for now. I hope I can keep my head on straight enough to keep it because it's really, really special one and so clean.
Yeah. So is there any special setup on that guitar that you like in terms of your playing style, or just you mess around with that, like neck angles and bridge saddles and stuff? Or
I'm not like I like a good setup as opposed to a specific setup. Like if a guitar sort of just feels good all over, like whether it's high action or low action or whatever, like I can adjust pretty easily. I like the wide neck guitars, and I wasn't always that way, but like all the stuff I've been playing lately is that 1 3/4 nut width with the sort of wide, chunky neck, and I like a low nut, like about because you spend so much time playing with the capo on playing bluegrass, like you get used to that sort of like really low first position kind of thing. Up the neck, I could care less really. It can be kind of medium to high, whatever. But I like the nut to be pretty low, and the saddle height is kind of whatever. But I'm not super, super picky other than that. Um, I, I don't know. Yeah, not really. Not super picky.
yeah. So after playing guitars for how many years? I don't know, 20 years or 18 years. What do you still struggle with the most in your playing, in your performing, let's say? Like what do you say, geez, I wish I could do that better, or I need to work on that? Anything specifically?
Oh, I mean all of it, but specifically maybe trying to think of what's some of the recent stuff. Let's see. I don't know, this makes me sound kind of cocky. I can't think of anything right off the bat, but there's always things like I think just sort of speeding up the connection between like what I'm thinking and what I'm playing. Like that's always what I'm working on is kind of like how just being able to have an idea and then get it out. Have an idea and get it out, and as opposed to like having an idea and being like, well, I don't know how would I do that, or and then the opportunity's gone. So just kind of being quick on the draw as far as playing what I'm sort of thinking of, but I'm always looking for interesting chords. I'm always looking for technique stuff. My left hand is the thing that's my worst thing. Like everybody says, like, "Oh, Jake, your right hand is incredible," and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, thankfully they think that it distracts them from the mess on this side. I have sort of a no, it's not that bad, but it's just a little like sometimes if there's ever anything that I'm like, damn, what's going on there? It's usually left hand related as opposed to right. But no, I mean nothing stands out other than just as you sort of progress, as you get better, this. Like anyone listening will know this. It's the stuff that you're working on is like small. It's little things, when you first start playing, you're like, well, I can't play a chord. I can't hit the right string. I can't get my guitar in tune. Those are like big things. But when you can get to like playing pretty well, then it's little stuff. It's like, well, I don't like my tone, or I don't like the timbre of this phrase I played up the neck, or it's less stuff that's like to the listener is sort of like less obvious, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the player knows, the listener doesn't always know.
Yeah,
I've
thankfully.
heard a lot of people say, I've heard a lot of musicians say, when sometimes we play in a band and I think it sounds terrible, and they come up to me afterwards and say, that's the best the band's ever sounded, and then vice versa. So I guess it's hard to judge what the audience is perceiving when you're on stage and
Yeah, well,
you're
and it's
fretting about it.
also you're not always perceiving it correctly either, because I've had shows where I get off and I'm in the green room, like my head in my hands, where I'm like, what a disaster. I can't believe that that's how I played, and like get all down in the dumps. And then, the sound guy will like email you the recording when you get back to the hotel or something, and you listen to it and you're like, wow, I was playing so great, And so actually I think sometimes what I perceive as like a bad gig is maybe just a gig where I was really engaged and really focusing, and like it maybe felt like a struggle, but there's actually just a lot of effort being put forward. So I try to sort of take my own feelings about gigs with a grain of salt, unless I listen back and really hear an issue.
Hmm. Yeah. I noticed a few players who are married don't wear a ring on their left hand when they're performing. Is that, do you ever think about that, or it doesn't matter? I
No,
mean,
when we first got married, I remember like when I first picked up the guitar and I had the ring on, I was like, this is like, I've definitely noticed it. And then like a day later, I never thought of it again. Like I don't know. I always wear it. Not because I'm afraid my wife will hurt me or anything. I don't know. I'll lose it. If I take it off, I'll lose it or something. So I just leave it on. I don't notice any kind of like, I never hear, some guys, they pick up a guitar and you can hear it going like cross frets and things like that. But I've never
Yeah,
I've never noticed anything like that.
interesting.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of guitarists, not a bunch, a few guitarists out there like you. I'm thinking of people like Jake Workman and Trey Hensley who can really play insanely fast guitar. So how big a deal is speed for you? And is that sometimes a goal in itself, or you just like to see what you can do with a song,
I, I
tempo,
don't
or
I don't always it's people hate this answer because it's not helpful. But I've kind of always been able to play pretty quickly. Like I have pretty good dexterity, have like really comfortable with my right hand for the most part, and like haven't worked on it all that hard. I mean, I play with a metronome a lot, but I'm never thinking about like, oh, how fast can I get it? It's just like I don't know, it feels pretty natural to me. It's not something I think a whole lot about. People hate that answer. People write me emails and say, "That's bullshit." Like, why can't you just tell us? Or it's like I just don't know. Like I just try to, I think something that is important is like if you want to play faster, like simplifying vocabulary. So if you're going to play a tune really quick, don't play it the same way you'd play it at 80 or 100 beats a minute. Like you'll have to trim it, some stuff off of it.
Mhm.
Um, I also think about like basically tone, speed, and sort of cleanliness. You can have two of those. You can play with good tone, and really clean. It's probably not going to be that fast. If you play really fast and really clean, it's probably not going to have a lot of volume or tone, and like that sort of thing. You have like there has to be sacrifice made to play those high tempos, or I think. But other than
Yeah.
that, no, I don't have a lot of. I don't have like a specific way I sit down and work on that. It's a lot of it's sort of just mental kind of stuff for me.
Hmm. I don't remember. I know I'm a big jazz fan too. And back in the jazz days, especially in maybe the 40s and 50s, they would have these like they call it cutting contests where a band would jam along and the sax player would play a couple of solos. The next guy would say, well, I'm going to whoop your ass. I'm going to play something better. And then it would go on until 4 in the morning, back and forth. Does
Yeah,
that kind of stuff ever happen in bluegrass or?
it does. Like when I was younger, I love that stuff. Like I love, like well, because the contest scene is kind of in
Mm,
that world, where it's like that stuff can get a little heady and a little, there's definitely some kind of ego stuff involved. As I've got older, I've sort of like, liked that thing less. But there, yeah, when I was young, I've definitely felt a little bit of a, like a need to hurt others when playing, that kind of like puff your chest out and kind of like thing. But
mhm.
no, I don't know. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to do, kind of like banjo contests, guitar contests, and I would sort of chum up with the guy who I thought could beat me and find out what tunes he was playing, and I'd play his tunes, and that sort of stuff, the mind games. And I would never, I mean, that's so stupid, it's like I would never kind of think of it like that now. But yeah, there is some of that. There's definitely some like macho kind of like stuff that goes on, but I think I don't know. It's cool fun when you're 15. I think it's if you're 40, it's pretty lame.
That leads me to a question I was going to ask you later, which is you've been playing with Noam Pikelny band a little bit lately.
Yeah.
Um, I was wondering maybe after one of his solos, do you ever kind of think to yourself, how do I follow that? Like, you ever have that thought, like, whoa, what am I going to do next? Or you never had any.
Gnome's banjo playing never ever makes me feel threatened as a guitar player because it's sort of
Mhm.
different lanes and you do different things for different effect and different roles. But being
Yeah.
that I played banjo when I was a kid, the banjo player inside me, when I hear Gnome, is terrified. It's
Mhm.
like I hear Gnome play things and like my sort of banjo sensibilities from, I don't play the banjo anymore, but I did for so long. I'll hear Gnome play stuff on the banjo where I'm just like, how is that possible? And like, and I don't tell Gnome that enough, but like he was a sort of an early, or not early, but he was like a hero of mine as I was in, getting a little older and into the more progressive banjo players and stuff. Like he was like one of my top guy, and so to get stand next to him all the time and hear him play is like amazing. And he's a sort of a endless well of just ideas. He plays so many different things that are so unique and yeah, he's great. He's inspiring to stand next to, but yeah, well, I mean there is sometimes that feeling of like how do you follow that? But the guitar and the banjo kind of do such different things. it's not as intimidating, but he's still it's amazing, more
Yeah.
amazing than it is like scary.
Yeah. So in that band, for example, was the solo order usually the same in songs? So would like you follow somebody in general, or was it always depending on the song?
That band is pretty a lot of that stuff is pretty arranged as far as orders go. We're not playing the same solos every night or anything like that, but the orders are usually the same, especially on the fiddle tunes and on the original tunes, like, yeah, you would play in the same place every night. Now, if it's on the more it's kind of informal stuff, like more just bluegrass standard stuff or vocal tunes, then there might be some audibles called where you're just looking for somebody's eyes, like, okay, you want me to, okay, I'll play next, that kind of thing. But a lot of it, I'd say 90% of it was like predetermined and, you know, um, which is different than the way I grew up. Like I was playing in so many traditional type bands, like it's not always the same every night. When I played with Melvin, it was never, ever, ever the same. It was just like, sort of arranging on the fly and stuff. And so getting used to that more sort of rigid kind of structured stuff was, yeah, it can be a challenge for me sometimes, but it's a good way to do it. It's just a different way to do it.
Yeah. So when you're playing in a band of, which obviously they're all top players, and somebody takes a solo before you, are you getting inspired by that or listening to that, or are you just thinking about what you're going to play already? And like he plays a great lick, then just felt go just take off on that particular thing, or are you still got it all figured out before you even start?
I have nothing figured out before I start because I think it's a disservice to the person soloing before you. Like I try to put 100% of my thinking into accompanying whatever's coming up before me. And then when, I start thinking about my solo like on beat one of my solo, and for better or worse, I just think, yeah, I try not, I think sometimes the more I have something planned out, the worse it gets. Because if it starts going wrong or starts going a different direction, it feels like a failure. And, I would rather just see what happens the same way everyone else is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been teaching some bluegrass classes here and some other players, and they want to memorize their solos at home and play them in class. And I say, I've seen what happens because they try to play it and they forget a note and they're lost.
Right.
Because they've tried to memorize. I say, no, don't memorize it. Just listen to the song and just play something. And for some people, it's very hard because some people just need to have things in their mind all figured out before they start. Other people can just wing it and, wherever it goes, it goes. But it's interesting how everyone's different about that.
Yeah, it is. And there's people who play certain things exactly like the record. And like when I was out with Noam, there's definitely things that he plays similar to the record. Like there's some of the stuff that's really arranged, like some of the really kind of heady original stuff of his. Like there's this tune called My Mother Thinks I'm a Lawyer from this album of his that we play every night, or we were playing every night, whatever. And I think he was playing that pretty similar every night because the whole thing's kind of composed, like it's arranged all the way through from top to bottom, where there's not really a lot of space for improvising for the banjo part. He kind of has this set thing, and then we'll improvise in different sections around him and whatever. But yeah, some stuff that's written and composed and really needs to be the same way every night is one thing. But no, I don't think memorizing solos is like a good practice necessarily. Or it's not something that I do. I don't want to say it's wrong to do it, but I don't do it.
Yeah. So I know you teach a lot. So a young guitar player learning bluegrass, what would you emphasize most with a learning bluegrass? Well, any instrument actually, but guitar, since you play and I play, what would you focus on
I think
above everything?
Listening. Listening's the only thing you really have to do. And if you love listening and you're actually listening and understanding what you're hearing and all that, then wanting to practice, and that's easy. Forcing yourself, like I have students now who we kind of have this fight all the time where I'm like, you don't sound good because you don't listen. It's like kind of hard to hear for folks, I think, whatever. But yeah, I can't think of anything that's been more valuable to me than just listening and making sure I still enjoy the music and am still sort of mystified by, I still want to be hearing things that are like, wow, that's great. I wish I could do that. Or why didn't I think of that? And if I can do that, and if I'm listening, usually I'm also practicing, I'm also playing a lot and all that. So it's easy to neglect listening because you want to, so you want to play guitar. You don't always want to just sit and listen to, but like, I think the listening is the most most valuable thing you can do. And also hang out with other people and play music, like play tunes and go to jams and hang out. And, that was like my whole regiment for 15 years. Go to jam and listen to records, go to jam and listen to records. That's it.
Yeah. I find that that's interesting too, because a lot of players, maybe adults, played guitar or something when they were younger, then they gave it up. Then they're older now, they take it up again, or they're retired, but they've never really played with people. Maybe they did when they
Right.
were teenagers. So they're playing alone in their thing, and they're playing along to YouTube, which everybody does. But then getting with other people, it's like, oh my God. Like you have to listen, because you're going to get lost after the first measure if you're not listening. You're not playing just by yourself anymore. It's a whole different world.
Right. Well, and you can't, when you're playing with people, you can't stop them and start over and stop them and start over. Like it begets a sort of urgency. Like, not that you have to play well or you have to play everything exactly right or whatever, but you do have to play from start to finish, real people don't wait for you to sit down and tune again and correct it and do this and that. It's like, just be ready to play and go play and see what, because that's really what you sound like when you play with other people. Like, that's who you are as a musician. How you play at home is a smokescreen. It's bullshit. That's not what you sound like.
Mm. Yeah. Talking about tuning, do you have a certain method or procedure that you like to tune with, or like?
Yeah, I have like a sound hole tuner thing that I use somewhat, and but I also travel with a tuning fork, two tuning forks, an A and a G one that I
Mhm.
like to use. Um, I like my B string a few cents flat and that sort of thing, but it's all sort of by ear and sort of by feel. And I'll usually get like my D and G strings really, really good and in tune and sort of work around them. Um, I, I'm sort of a tuning nut. Like, it has to be in tuner. Like, I can't feel like my head's going to explode. I'm really particular about that. But man, especially when you're playing solo, oh my God, it's like stands out so. It's immediate. You hear a guitar by itself that's out of tune. You're playing in like a 6-piece string band. It's a little bit different, but yeah, you play solo. It's like, it's like hearing someone play a piano that's out of tune. So every time that note comes around, it's like, oh, there it is again. Ah, there it is again. So,
Yeah. So when you're in a band, between songs, are you tuning with a little electronic tuner on your headstock, or just by ear? Or it's kind of sometimes hard to hear yourself with a guitar, which is not a loud instrument,
a
for
lot of
tuning
times I try
purposes.
to leave it alone as long as possible because, usually everybody's, especially when you play these theaters, you play like, well, I guess it could be anywhere, but like the sort of climate of the room is doing stuff to every player. And so like if everyone's kind of just letting their instruments settle together, that's one thing. But if I'm tuning every song and Gnome's not, we're gonna just grow apart, 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 where I'll be the most correct, but I'll sound the most out because everybody has sort of settled one way or another. And so that's, usually that's like with my ears. It's like, okay, the
Mm.
banjo's in tune with itself and the bass seems to be there. And my tuner says I'm right, but something sounds funny. Then I'll just sort of depart, from the tuner and relying on your ear for that stuff is good.
Yeah. So does the whole band slowly go flat as strings stretch and things warm up? Or is that hard to generalize?
Oh yeah, I mean you can't generalize it. Sometimes just weird shit happens, especially if say the green room is a little warm and the stage is a little cold or vice versa. Or, there's always this you always have to go up some like stupid hallway to the stage that's like way colder than the rest of the place. And that's while they're saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, here he comes." And so yeah, there's like so many variables. You know how these like theaters and stuff are. You're down in the green room that's set exactly how you want it, and the stage is way too hot because the lights are on you, and then you have to walk down this like weird corridor or whatever to get there, and it's always cold. It's always like,
Frozen tunnel.
yeah, the frozen tunnel, right? And so it's like, yeah, I'll sit backstage and tune for 30 minutes and get it just so dialed, and then get up there and it's like completely trashed. So yeah, I try to just defer to my ears, and it's like, unless something's really, really glaring, I just try to let the guitar be.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Change the topic here. If you could have sat down with anybody in the history of bluegrass and played on the couch, anybody that you would have enjoyed that little jam with?
Clarence White.
Oh, okay.
That's my guy. Clarence White, of course, or I mean, it's like such a cop out, but obviously Scruggs, obviously Bill Monroe, I mean, all those guys. But yeah, Clarence, man, stands out to me. Like that's a guy that I just have so much love for, and so much. Uh, I'm just so in awe of everything that he played, and so that's my guy for sure, no brainer.
Yeah. So as a guitar player coming up, was he kind of your I guess hero or role model in a way, or were there other players that you liked as
There were
well?
other players, but Clarence is one of the first ones that really like blew my socks off. I remember hearing a recording of from the Clarence White, Roger Bush, Billy Latham thing. Oh, sorry, my baby's crying in the other room. Maybe I should move.
I can pause here if you want. You want to take
Yeah,
a
give
little
me just two
pause?
seconds.
Okay, so we're back again. Yeah, I had to take a little break to go tend to
Sorry
the
about
baby, but I think we're he's good now. Yeah.
I think you were asking like about other players that I sort of admired growing up. The one that stands out the most, I don't know. Tony Rice obviously is in there. I mean, I was obsessed with Tony Rice for so long. But as far as people I got to spend a lot of time around, Junior Blankenship was a big one for me, who played with Melvin at the same time as me, and he had just quit Ralph Stanley. So it was like this whole thing, all these Ralph records I grew up with, and all this great cross picking. I got to stand next to him and hear him do it every night. And so, like, I think there's a lot of that stuff that's carried over into my playing. And um, yeah, that guy was amazing. And I'm trying to think of who else, man. I mean, there's so many. Norman Blake, obviously. I mean, all the big ones, everybody's are the same, but as far as sort of the outliers, like, yeah, Junior Blankenship and Shuffler, obviously, and my grandpa was a great guitar player, and uh, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of good players there. There's so many,
totally. I
so
know,
many
and
players.
but Don Reno is another one that I spent so
Hmm.
much time listening to, and but there's not that many all in all. Everybody kind of has the same 5 or 10. Like there's only so many.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so for you, anything on your bucket list at this point? I know you're doing some solo touring now. Anything coming up in terms of projects or band stuff, or just take it as it
I'm
comes?
yeah, it's kind of taking it as it comes. I'm working on another record where I'm doing more singing, doing a lot more singing lately, and I'm just trying to see how far the solo flat picking thing can go. There was a time, and I won't name names, but there was a long time in my life where I thought there was this sort of gold standard of solo flat picking guitar, and there's these like one or two guys that used to scare the shit out of me to hear them play. It'd be like, oh my God, how do they do it? And it was always my goal to like, and then this goes back to the cutting contest kind of thing. But I always thought if I could just knock that guy off or those guys, if I could flat pick up by myself that well or better, that would be the goal. And I think for the first time in my life, as cocky as it sounds, like I listen to that stuff and I don't feel anything. Not that that's not great, but I'm like, I can do it. I'm there. I got it. So just seeing how far the sort of solo flat picking thing can go is I guess really what excites me the most.
You're not going to name names, but
I shouldn't.
okay, fair enough.
I
Fair
shouldn't.
enough. Fair enough. Um, Anything that you would have done differently looking back on your not so long musical life, but I mean, any choices you made that you wish you hadn't, or things you maybe wish you had tried and haven't, or still will, or is it
Um,
too
you know,
too early to tell?
I who knows? There's definitely things like, like a lot of it's just growing pains, and I'm young still, and I'm still learning stuff, and I've been learning stuff, but just learning how to manage the business stuff is hard. Like, there's so many people who want so much of your attention and stuff. It's really hard to make sure you're fitting everybody in, and it's like just making sure that you're, also like making sure that I'm organized enough to keep everybody happy, but also um, have enough boundaries to have family time. Like, I can't tell you how many like birthday parties and anniversaries and graduations and all things of family things and stuff that like you look back on and you go, wow, that was more important than I thought. Stuff I've missed, stuff like that, or like, um, yeah, and I'm still learning that. Just how to balance everything is, I guess, the big thing. That's maybe more broad. Musically, um, I guess I don't have a lot of regrets musically, but just stuff like that, just like managing my time and how to like be present for people in my life and not just. But there, the flip side is like you can't get great without sacrificing certain things, and like sadly, a lot of that's been family things and relationships and uh whatever. But I
Yeah.
feel now that I feel confident with the way I'm playing, I have all this time to give to my folks and my people, and so I just had to like disappear for a while, I guess, and do my thing. But that's something that I do think about, and especially now with the baby, like how to manage, my own sort of aspirations of greatness and whatever, and like, but also the baby's like kind of the big thing, and making sure that it's, there's like a little bit of a shift in focus there, and I'm glad I didn't have. Just being real, knowing me, I'm glad I didn't have the baby when I was really, really deep in trying to get to a high level because I think I'd be rather neglectful. It's good timing, I feel like now I can take a step back from the like 12-hour practice days and like walk with the baby to get like a coffee or whatever.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I have three daughters, so I'm familiar with that whole baby thing. It's nothing like it.
It's amazing. I'm having
Nothing
so
like
much
it.
fun. I'm loving it.
Did you ever consider? I know you've played duo with Andy Statman. I think your brother might have been in that group.
Yeah, he
So
was probably there. Yeah.
yeah. Do you like the duo format? Do you think about doing that? I'm just thinking about at one point, Brian Sutton and Tim O'Brien were touring together. That was a fantastic pairing. Um,
Yeah, there's definitely stuff that's sort of in the light works, for that. Like I want to do more touring with my brother, just the two of us singing, and stuff. And there's been some little whispers of maybe me and Noam playing some things together at some point. And I would love to do some kind of duo flat picking shows with some folks, but that also gets into the sort of weird. There's a weirdness there sometimes, like and I don't mean like there's any kind of issue or whatever, but it's sometimes like um there's certain players that I think would be like complimentary and would be fun to do it with certain guys. And guys who are my friends and stuff or whatever, but there's just a little like it could maybe get competitive or get kind of weird. And so I haven't
hmm.
pursued a lot of that sort of duo flat picking shows, but I would love to. I love playing with other guitar players.
Yeah. I've always been hoping to have um, Josh Williams and Wyatt Rice come up and do a whole Tony Rice thing because
Oh,
they've
I'm sure.
they've both played here a lot, but Wyatt's hard to get a hold of, and so is Josh. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen. I love them
Wyatt
both.
is really hard, man. He's so good, but yeah, he's definitely a little hard to pin down. But that's just that's musicians for you.
Yeah, yeah. Say, do you know this radio guy, Mando Richard? He said he was going to have you in on his show. Did
Yeah,
that
we
happen?
talked yesterday.
Oh, he's
This is like the press week. It feels like. I feel like
oh
I'm
yeah,
on, like I'm doing all these radio things because the tour's coming up.
yeah. He used to do a radio show in Connecticut from um, University of New Haven for many years, and I always
Mm.
assumed he lived here, but he was in Delaware the whole time. He was just mailing it in, and
Oh,
he was pretty famous up here with his Black Diamond show for many
oh,
years.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a nice guy. We had a nice conversation. He yeah, we were kind of mostly promoting the sort of Pennsylvania shows, like I'm playing in Delaware, playing in the Philly area, and then Pittsburgh, and there's like three or four Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania shows on this tour, which is kind of rare.
yeah. Hmm. Anything you wish to talk about? I didn't ask you if I
I
covered
don't think
everything.
so. I think we covered it, man.
Okay.
How's the show? You think the show? Well, where is the show now? I know you used to be at your house,
It's
but
a,
like,
it is. Yeah, it's in my house, a house
oh, it's
concert.
still at the house. Okay.
Yeah, it's inside, and the workshop will be early, and then the show will be after. And yeah, it's going to be good.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Um, so I'll just mention again for those thousands of listeners, hopefully, that Jake will be playing in Hamden, Connecticut on January 24th. Um, it's a guitar workshop and a house concert. It's in Hamden at 166 Mather Street, and tickets are available at guitartownct.com. There are only a few tickets left, so if you're listening, come on over and enjoy. And Jake, I will look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
I'll see you then.
Okay, man. Nice talking to you.
All right, buddy.
Take care. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast, and thanks for listening. Visit our website, guitartownct.com, for concert and podcast schedules, or just to send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.